First of all, sorry, English is not my native language. This is a disposable account and fake names for privacy reasons. Me, 19M, and my girlfriend Alicia, 19F, have been in a relationship since the beginning of last year. She is incredible, and I love her so much. We are very happy together, and I really think she is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. I am an only child, and I live with my mother, 42F. My father abandoned her shortly before my birth. Since then, she has been working very hard to give me a stable life while trying to be as present as possible in my life. She is very patient and understanding with me. We have a very good relationship, and I really love and appreciate her a lot. Now the problem. Last Friday, Alicia suggested that we have a family dinner so that our parents could get to know each other. I had already met her parents, and she had met my mother, so I thought it was a good idea, and I agreed. I talked to my mother, and we organized dinner at our house. On Friday night, Alicia arrived with her family, her brother Lucas, her father Damon, her father's boyfriend William, and her mother Rebecca. My mother and I greeted them kindly as soon as we opened the door. But as soon as my mother made eye contact with Rebecca, both of their faces expressed surprise. Lucas noticed this and asked his mother what was happening. And it turns out that my mother and Alicia's were high school classmates when they were teenagers. Yes, I know, it's a small world. That news surprised us all, not in a bad way. Rebecca made some comment that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and that she was happy to see her. But my mother didn't look really happy. She just forced a smile and tried to be as kind as possible. The dinner passed relatively calmly. I was sitting next to my mother, and although she acted kindly, I could tell that there was something strange about her. One of the things that caught my attention the most is that she kept looking carefully at Alicia and then at Rebecca. I treated and talked in a friendly way with Damon, William, Alicia, and Lucas. But when Rebecca did or said something, I could see my mother frown or show annoyance in some subtle way. The situation escalated when Rebecca, in a half-mocking tone, told my mother, "Wow, Christina, we haven't seen each other for years and you still don't know what combs are for." My mother usually has quite messy hair. That comment made her annoyance much more noticeable. She frowned and got up from the table, asked me to speak for a moment, and we went to the kitchen. I asked her what was happening, and she ended up revealing that Rebecca had been the girl who bullied her in high school. You see, a few years ago, I myself suffered from bullying. When my mother found out, she supported me completely. I felt very bad, and I thought that somehow it was my fault, that other kids were bullying me. She assured me that it wasn't like that, and she told me how they also bullied her at school and made her go through very bad times. She didn't give more details or names, but she told me that she wouldn't allow me to suffer the same thing in silence, and she really kept her promise. Returning to the present, my mother left her calm aside and looked much more upset. She told me of all the girls in the world, you had to mess with Rebecca's daughter. Believe me, the phrase was much ruder and with some insult towards Rebecca involved, which surprised me because it was the first time I saw my mother so angry. We returned to the table, and we didn't need someone to tell us to know that Alicia and her family had been listening to our conversation. "I would talk to an architect because I think your walls are made of paper," William joked, in an attempt to calm the tension in the place, which didn't work. Damon made an apology and some excuse as to why they had to leave at that moment, and later Alicia and her family ended up leaving. When I was left alone with my mother, I really didn't know what to say. But she came forward and demanded that I cut off my relationship with Alicia at that very moment. She told me explicitly that she would not allow her son to go out with a daughter who had become conceited. That evil woman. I refused. I told her that although I understand her hatred towards Rebecca, and I do not downplay what she suffered, I cannot simply separate from Alicia from one day to the next. We argued a little, and my mother ended up saying that if I decided to bring Alicia and her mother into our lives, she wouldn't want to continue being part of mine. And finally, she went back to her room, slamming the door. I don't know what to do. On the one hand, I love Alicia very much. I want to have a future with her and wouldn't like to have to separate and punish her for her mother's actions. But on the other hand, my mother has always supported me and has done everything so that I can have a good life. She has always been there for me. I can't imagine my life without her. I honestly don't want to lose either of them, but I don't know what to do. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. 19 years old is very young to be thinking about marriage. I wouldn't break up with this girl, but I would never bring the mom around again. At least this is out in the open. As for marriage, your future mother-in-law sounds like a jerk. Not an ideal situation, but you had better really consider this before you propose. You don't just marry the woman, you marry her family. Comment 2. Wow, Christina, we haven't seen each other for years, and you still don't know what combs are for. So your mother-in-law hasn't changed one bit and is still a bully. And you want to find a solution that makes everybody happy. That is, keep subjecting your mother to bullying while everyone turns a blind eye. Gotcha, yeah. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a crazy 3 days since I last posted about the dinner disaster with my girlfriend Alicia's family and my mom. I've been trying to figure things out and, well, things have taken some busy turns. First off, I spent the whole next day after the dinner trying to talk to my mom. She was still really upset and wouldn't even look at me. I get it, she's been through a lot, and seeing Rebecca again must have brought back some bad memories. I remember when I was bullied. She was my rock. She'd been through the same thing and knew exactly how to help me. It's like she could sense when I was feeling down and would do anything to cheer me up. So, seeing her this hurt, it's tough. On the other side, Alicia has been texting me nonstop. She's confused and hurt, and I don't blame her. She had no idea about the history between our moms. Alicia's always been this bright light in my life. She's got this laugh that just makes you want to join in, even if you don't know what's funny. We've been through a lot together, like when we both volunteered at the animal shelter and ended up saving that litter of kittens from the storm drain. We're a team, and I can't imagine my life without her. So I decided to meet up with Alicia to talk things through. We met at our favorite coffee shop, the one where we had our first date and spent hours talking until they kicked us out. She was already there when I arrived, looking like she hadn't slept much. We talked, and she told me she had a long conversation with her mom about my mom. Turns out, Rebecca felt really guilty about how she treated my mom back in high school. She's actually been going to therapy for a while to deal with her past behavior. Alicia and I spent the whole afternoon talking. It was hard, but we both agreed that we didn't want to let our parents' history ruin what we have. We decided to give it some time and try to help our moms reconcile if possible. Now, here's where things get even crazier. The next day, I came home from work to find my mom and Rebecca sitting in our living room. I was shocked. I mean, just 2 days ago, they couldn't stand to be in the same room. And there they were talking. I could tell it was a heavy conversation, but they weren't yelling or anything. I learned that after Alicia and Rebecca's talk, Rebecca reached out to my mom to apologize. She wanted to make amends for the past. My mom, being the incredibly strong woman she is, agreed to hear her out. I guess they both realized that holding on to the past wasn't doing them any good. But here's the twist that I still can't wrap my head around. As they talked, they started piecing together their high school years, and something didn't add up. They both remembered a trip they took with their class, a trip where my mom met a guy. She never talked much about him, just mentioned him once as a summer fling. Well, after some digging through old yearbooks and photos, they figured out that the guy was none other than Alicia's dad, Damon. I know, right? And I couldn't believe it either. My mom and Damon had a brief thing back in high school. They lost touch after the trip, and my mom never knew Damon ended up marrying Rebecca. And Damon had no idea that the Christina he once knew was my mom. So now we're all trying to process this. My mom and Rebecca are actually getting along now, bonding over the shock of it all. Alicia and I are, well, we're not sure what we are. I mean, it's not like Damon is my dad or anything, but it's still a lot to take in. My stepsister flirts with another guy, while dating her BF and plans to announce pregnancy at party. But her secret lover crashes in and spills the truth before she can, leaving chaos. So full disclosure, I made this Reddit account a week ago, and I've been typing this and deleting it every day out of anxiety. My stepsister, who is 24 years old, and her boyfriend, who is 27 years old, have been together for about 2.5 months. I've only met the guy twice. He's pretty introverted. so I haven't been able to get a great feel for him. But he's a nice guy, has a good job, and treats my sister very well, which makes this freaking mess even worse. 2 weekends ago, me, my sister, and her best friend, who I'm close to as well, went to a show about an hour and a half away. We had pit tickets, so when we got there, we got drinks and stood for a few minutes, trying to get a feel for the crowd. As the opening band began to play, a group of guys filled in behind us. There were 4 of them, all tall and pretty handsome. One of them complimented her best friend's tattoo, and we started talking and kind of merged groups. There was one who kind of dialed into my sister, and they started talking. As they were talking, she had pretty flirty body language, laughing, smiling, touching his arm. She's a very outgoing person, and this isn't totally out of the norm for her, so I kind of looked the other way. However, as the night went on, they kept talking as we were listening to music. They got closer until he was standing behind her with his hands on her hips and her hands on his like couples do at shows. The group was pretty drunk at this point, so it felt like I was the only one noticing. I made eye contact with her and tilted my head as to ask what she was doing. She smiled and separated herself from him. Whatever, a momentary lapse of judgment. I was willing to call it over. However, an hour later, I was in line for the bathroom and I saw them in an area towards the back, with her hands wrapped around his neck and his on her hips, talking and laughing in this embrace. Not proud to say I froze, then elected to stay in line and use the bathroom. When I got back to the group, they were gone. They returned about an hour later. What happened in that hour, I have no idea, but I just feel like it was nothing good. The drive home was quiet as the girls had drunk a lot. I dropped them off and haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. So obviously I need to tell him. Like I said before, I don't know him well, but he seems like a good dude. Here's the thing though, I don't have any contact information for him. The only thing I know is where he works and his hours. I don't really want to show up at Buddy's work with life-changing news. So like I said, just feeling very stuck. My sister is genuinely a good person, and I love having her in my life. But I can't just pretend this didn't happen. Edit. For additional context, her dad married my mom about 1.5 years ago. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Every time I see this, I give the same advice, and I'll get downvoted for it every time. Everybody telling you to intervene is comfortably not in your position. This is not your problem, and this will come back to bite you if you interfere. Sure, you want to be a good person and do the right thing, but let's play this out. Somebody that you aren't close to is being betrayed. You tell them, they break up. And every family gathering afterwards is going to be difficult. You aren't some relationship Batman, and this is neither your fault nor responsibility to fix. Chances are this relationship is doomed anyways. You don't need to be collateral damage. Comment 2. You've known your stepsister like all your life, so it is valuable for you to talk to her about it and discuss why she did it. That dude, only 2.5 months, is actually a small fraction of time but doesn't excuse her behavior. If you are honest and open with her, then do it. But remember to tell her you want her to tell her boyfriend about what happened. And who knows, maybe they aren't even serious emotionally if she's trying to already leave the other guy. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a wild couple of weeks, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty shocking. So, after the concert incident, I was torn about what to do. My stepsister, let's call her Sarah, had always been the life of the party, but I never expected her to cross a line like that. I kept replaying the night in my head, trying to figure out if I was overreacting, but deep down, I knew something was off. I decided to talk to Sarah's best friend, who we'll call Emily. Emily and I have always been close, and I figured she might have some insight. When I brought it up, she got really quiet, which was a red flag. She confessed that Sarah had been acting differently ever since she started dating her boyfriend, who we'll call Mike. Apparently, Sarah felt like the relationship was moving too fast, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to settle down. I was shocked. Sarah had always talked about how great Mike was, and I had no idea she was having doubts. Emily also mentioned that Sarah had been getting texts from some guy she met at a bar a few weeks before the concert. It was starting to look like Sarah was leading a double life. I was still debating whether to tell Mike when things got even more complicated. I ran into him at the grocery store, and we ended up chatting for a bit. He mentioned how he was planning to propose to Sarah on their upcoming anniversary. My heart sank. I knew I had to tell him what I saw, but I didn't want to be the one to break his heart. Before I could figure out a plan, Sarah dropped a bombshell. She told the family that she was pregnant. Everyone was ecstatic, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Sarah had always been careful about these things, and the timing just seemed too convenient. The family started planning a big celebration, and I felt like I was living in a soap opera. Sarah was acting like everything was perfect, but I could tell she was stressed. I caught her on the phone one day, whispering to someone about making a big mistake and not knowing what to do. Then the real twist came. I was at home when I heard a knock on the door. It was the guy from the concert, the one Sarah had been all over. He introduced himself as Jake and asked if Sarah was around. I told him she wasn't, and he looked relieved. He said he needed to talk to someone about what happened that night, and I was the only one he could think of. Jake told me that he and Sarah had hooked up after the concert. He said he didn't know she had a boyfriend and felt terrible about it, but that wasn't all. He had just found out that his ex-girlfriend, who he'd broken up with a month before the concert, was also pregnant. He was freaking out, trying to figure out how to handle the situation. I was stunned. Here was this guy, a complete stranger whose life was tangled up with my stepsisters in the messiest way possible. And now, there was a possibility that Sarah's baby might not even be Mike's. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. I had to tell Mike everything. But before I could, Sarah announced that she was going to have a small get-together with just family and close friends, including Mike, to celebrate the pregnancy. The day of the party arrived, and the tension was palpable. Sarah was on edge, Mike was oblivious, and I was a nervous wreck. Halfway through the party, Sarah pulled me aside. She was in tears, saying she couldn't keep up the charade any longer. She confessed that she didn't know who the father of her baby was, and that she was planning to tell Mike after the party. But fate had other plans. As Sarah was talking to me, Mike walked in on the conversation. He heard everything. The room went silent as Mike processed what Sarah had just said. He looked at me, then at Sarah, and without a word, he walked out of the house. Sarah ran after him, but he was gone. The party quickly fell apart as the family tried to understand what had just happened. Emily was in shock, and I was left standing there, feeling like I was in the middle of a storm. My GF loves extended low T, but when I say I don't, she says she can't respect my opinions. Now, after a big fight, she wants a space, and I wonder if I can be more supportive or it's over high there. Can anyone provide their own experiences with something I've found unique in a relationship? My current girlfriend has several pop culture items she adores and has strong opinions on. Harry Potter. Books are better than the movies. Don't even mention the film Prisoner of Azkaban, Lord of the Rings. The extended film cuts are the definitive film versions, hands down. This is all well and good. I respect her passions. Where we've run into issues as a couple is when I express respectful disagreement. When someone offers a pretty hard stance on items I consider kind of trivial, like which versions of LOTR films are the best, I want to offer my opinion too. So, I mentioned to my girlfriend, respectfully, that I thought the theatrical cuts had some merit too. This led to an argument, and it really made me sad. My girlfriend takes these pop culture items so seriously that she says she doesn't respect my differing opinions on them. And it's rude for me to offer disagreement on things I apparently know that she adores. My comment that started this was also unpopular opinion, but some elements of the extended editions I didn't like. And some I really did, just being honest. In response to an LOTR meme she shared. She says things like, "I don't share fucked up, cruel, incorrect opinions about Shoot You Love. No one's ever tried to corner me into saying I respect an opinion that I don't respect before. And I don't want to share Shoot with you if you don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable." There's missing context here, but those comments are the gist of our conversation. She has many, many admirable qualities, but it's been hard to say the least to have these conversations regarding topics that I feel ultimately don't matter: movies, music, and opinions on them. These aren't disagreements about kids or money or buying a house. This is me having a few degrees of difference on a film series. That is important to both of us. I fear I cannot be my honest self with her, which sucks. I feel this is an unreasonable argument, and we are unable to see a way through, other than just not talking about it. I don't want her to hide things she loves from me because she's worried about my honest thoughts about them. However, why do I have to have my opinion heard on this issue? Why can't I just let it go? Why can't my opinion be respected? I'm trying to do some soul searching. This relationship has been much more difficult than my past ones. It has had higher highs and lower lows, and has been inconsistent. When I start feeling we're stronger as a unit, an argument like this happens. What do you think? Am I being hurtful and not being silent on my true thoughts regarding these films? Or is this ridiculous? And we need to find a better way forward. I am less trying to pin who's right or wrong here, and more just trying to find out if our dynamic is salvageable. We've been dating for 4 months, and have had versions of this argument before. It wears me down. Edit. For context, I do not constantly rain on my girlfriend's parade about things she loves. I respect what she loves. What I do not understand is statements like, the extended low TA is the only way to watch low TR. When she said that a few months ago, I let it go. Who cares? But I want to have the freedom to have a playful debate. And part of it involves ego. I don't see why she should draw serious lines in the sand about opinions, about taste. I felt nervous to bring things up to her and share my honest thinking. Because when it comes to certain topics like LOTR, owning pets, etc., I'm afraid she will get offended. But we've been working on that, on me being more honest with my thoughts and feelings. It's how I feel safe in a relationship. So when she shared the low TR meme, I thought it was a good time to say my comment. Here's how the thread went on our convo. She shared the meme. I replied with, haha, this is great, also unpopular opinion, but some elements of the extended editions I didn't like. She said, can you expand on this, please? I said, I thought some of the added scenes bogged down the movie. We talked some more. I said I was sad she didn't respect my opinion. She said, yeah, well, you gave me the answer I wasn't hoping for, and I didn't even ask you any goddamn questions. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I don't want to share anything with you if you don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. With this statement, she has revealed that this is an issue that she needs to work on. She sounds very immature. This is going to cause many problems for her until she addresses it. I would tell her she needs to grow up and accept that people have other opinions. If she can't, personally, that would not be the relationship that I would want to be in. Comment 2. I don't share messed up, cruel, incorrect opinions about things you love. That's just demeaning and disrespectful. She is calling your thoughts messed up, cruel, incorrect, and not good. A loving and kind partner would be respectful and want to hear your thoughts. I'm baffled how you think her admirable qualities compensate for this. One of the hallmarks of a satisfying partnership is being heard, respected, understood, and valued. Now, for the update. Hi there, a lot has happened since my last post. I thought things would cool down after our argument about the LOTR films. But boy, was I wrong. Remember how I mentioned my girlfriend's passion for pop culture? Well, it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. We had a history of playful banter about our favorite TV shows and movies, but I never realized how deep her convictions ran until now. 2 days ago, she invited me over for a movie night, a tradition we started when we first began dating. It was always our thing to watch the latest superhero flick or a classic rom-com. But that night, she decided to put on The Prisoner of Azkaban, knowing full well how I felt about it. I thought she was trying to be cute, to tease me a little, so I played along. Halfway through the movie, I made a lighthearted comment about a scene I thought was better in the book. That's when the atmosphere shifted. She paused the movie turned to me with a look I'd never seen before and asked, "Why do you always have to do this?" I was taken aback. We'd had our disagreements before, but this was different. She was genuinely upset. I tried to explain that I was just sharing my thoughts like we always did, but she wasn't having it. She told me that my opinions were starting to feel like personal attacks on the things that she held dear. The conversation escalated quickly. She brought up past discussions, like the time I suggested that maybe owning pets wasn't for everyone, knowing she couldn't imagine life without her cat. I realized then that every time I shared a differing opinion, it chipped away at her. The heartbreak came when she said, "I thought you were the one person who got me, but maybe I was wrong." It felt like a punch to the gut. I never meant to hurt her. I just wanted to be honest. We decided to take a break from the movie and talk things out. That's when she dropped a bombshell. She confessed that her ex was always dismissive of her interests, and my comments, however innocent, were triggering those old feelings of not being taken seriously. I felt terrible. Here I was, thinking we were just engaging in some friendly debate. But to her, it was a reminder of a past she was trying to forget. I apologized profusely, but the damage was done. The next day, things went from bad to worse. She called me, voice trembling, and said we needed to talk. We met at our favorite coffee shop, the one where we had our first date and shared our love for fantasy novels over lattes. She told me she needed space, that my inability to let her have her passions without comment was suffocating. I tried to defend myself, saying that I respected her and her interests, but she cut me off. She reminded me of the time I had criticized her favorite band, even though I knew she had a deep emotional connection to their music. It was a pattern I hadn't seen before. To me, these were just opinions, but to her, they were pieces of her identity. She said she felt like she was constantly on the defensive, waiting for the next time I'd dismiss something she loved. The confrontation was intense. There were tears, mostly from her, but I was fighting back my own. I never wanted to be the cause of her pain. I thought back to all the times she'd enthusiastically shared something with me, only for me to respond with a critique. As we sat there, surrounded by the buzz of the coffee shop, I realized that this wasn't just about movies or books. It was about respect, about understanding that sometimes it's okay to just listen and appreciate someone's passion without adding your 2 cents. She left me with a choice. Either I learn to accept her as she is, passions and all, without feeling the need to challenge her, or we go our separate ways. I'm still processing everything. I love her, and the thought of losing her over something that seemed so trivial to me is heartbreaking. But maybe it's not trivial to her, and that's what I need to understand. I'm not sure where we stand right now. We haven't spoken since that conversation at the coffee shop. I'm left wondering if I can change, if I can be the partner she needs, someone who supports her unconditionally. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.